Tonight, a woman opens her credit report and finds 17 accounts in her name that she never opened. The oldest one was created a month after her 18th birthday. The address on it is her childhood home. And a man in his 60s has been posting on Reddit for 6 months, asking strangers how to apologize to a daughter he hasn't spoken to in 18 years. On the 6th month, the daughter posts in the same thread. 5 stories tonight. A woman who found 17 accounts she never opened. A man in a suit who gets mistaken for the manager one too many times. A family dinner where someone finally asks the right question about the photographs. A shoplifter who comes back to return a stolen item for the 8th time. Except the item he's returning has never been stocked in that store. In the thread, Story 1. A woman turns 26, requests her free annual credit report for the first time, and finds 17 open credit accounts in her name, totaling $41,000 in debt. The oldest account was open when she was 18 years and 32 days old. The contact address on every single account is the house where she grew up. Story 2. A man in a gray suit stops into a grocery store on a Tuesday afternoon to pick up one item. He is mistaken for the floor manager 3 times in 15 minutes. The 3rd time, there's a problem that has been unresolved for 20 minutes, a customer who is visibly distressed, and a real manager who is nowhere to be found. He decides to just handle it. Story 3. At a Thanksgiving dinner, our narrator notices something she's been too close to see for 14 months. Her grandmother's refrigerator is covered in photographs of the grandchildren, and some of those photographs were taken at places our narrator has never mentioned visiting. Her uncle has been out of prison for 14 months. Story 4. A loss prevention officer at a mid-sized retail chain has been watching the same man return a suspected stolen item every week for 7 weeks. On week 8, the man walks in with something different. The LP officer, who has been prepared, realizes within 30 seconds that the item the man is attempting to return has never been sold at this store, or any store in their chain. In Story 5, the thread, the father, the 18 years, the community that spent 6 months helping a 63-year-old man figure out how to write a letter to someone who had every reason not to read it, and a reply that arrived on a Thursday afternoon and changed the shape of the thread entirely. Our first story comes from our /raisedbynarcissists. Our narrator is 26, lives alone in a studio apartment in a mid-sized city in the Pacific Northwest, and has been estranged from her mother for almost 3 years. She posted this in January. She had meant to check her credit report at 25, but had kept putting it off. In January, she finally pulled it. She sat at her kitchen table for a long time after the page loaded. The report listed 17 open credit accounts. Our narrator, who had 1 credit card, 1 student loan, and no other accounts, recognized none of them. The combined outstanding balance was $41,620. She went through the accounts one by one. 3 were store credit cards. 4 were personal loans from online lenders. 2 were auto refinancing accounts. The others were a mix of unsecured credit lines and what appeared to be accounts with utility companies in cities she had never lived in. Every account had been opened after her 18th birthday. The first one, a store credit card with a $200 limit, had been opened 32 days after she turned 18. The contact address on all 17 accounts was the address of the house where she had grown up, her mother's house. Our narrator did not call her mother. She called, instead, the Federal Trade Commission's identity theft hotline, then a nonprofit credit counseling service she found through a Reddit search, then a branch of her bank where she was connected to a specialist named, we'll call her Donna, who spent 2 hours on the phone with her that afternoon. Donna had handled 3 cases in the previous 18 months that followed a near-identical pattern. Accounts opened exactly at the age of majority, using a parent's address, in increments small enough to avoid triggering automated fraud alerts individually, but significant in aggregate. She called it, to our narrator, piggyback fraud with a long runway. Our narrator filed a formal identity theft report with the FTC. She froze her credit with all 3 bureaus. She filed a police report, which she was told by the responding officer might not lead anywhere without further evidence. She also, on Donna's suggestion, contacted each of the 17 creditors individually, sending certified letters with copies of the FDC report, the police report, and a written dispute of each account. 8 of the 17 creditors responded quickly, flagging the accounts for investigation. The other 9 did not respond within the statutory window. Our narrator's nonprofit counselor helped her escalate those 9 to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The process, she writes, took 11 months. What happened during those 11 months, in parallel, was that her mother called her. Once in February, once in April, once in August. Our narrator did not answer. In October, her mother sent a text. The text said, "These things are not what you think they are. I was helping you build credit. I was going to tell you." Our narrator, who had been documenting everything on the advice of Donna, screenshotted the text, attached it to the CFPB complaints for the 9 outstanding creditors, and forwarded it to the fraud investigation units of 4 of the largest accounts. By the following January, 1 year after she had first pulled the credit report, 14 of the 17 accounts had been formally discharged from her record, the creditors having determined that the accounts were opened fraudulently. The remaining 3 were still under investigation, but had been suspended from collection activity. Our narrator's credit score, which had been in the low 500s when she had first pulled the report, was 684 by January. Her mother was not charged. The police report had been filed, and the text message and account documentation had been submitted to local law enforcement, but as of the date of posting, no charges had been brought. Our narrator writes that she has accepted this possibility. She notes that her mother's name has been flagged by the 3 credit bureaus and multiple creditors as associated with disputed accounts. Her last line, "I don't need a conviction. I need my name. I'm getting my name back one account at a time, and I have 14 of them." That's a story about what happens when someone close to you uses your name without asking. Our next narrator's story is about a name he wasn't given but briefly borrowed on behalf of someone else's problem. Our next story comes from our /IDontWorkHereLady. Our narrator is a 41-year-old financial analyst who stopped into a grocery store on a Tuesday afternoon in his lunch break to buy a single item. He was wearing, he writes, a gray suit and a lanyard from his office building. He had, he writes, been in the store for 3 minutes and 40 seconds when a woman tapped him on the shoulder and asked him where the gluten-free pasta was. He pointed to the relevant aisle. He does not work there. He found his item, moved to the self-checkout, and was standing in line when an older man approached him and asked him if he could speak to the manager about a pricing discrepancy on a canned item. Our narrator said, politely, that he didn't work at the store. The older man apologized. Our narrator finished checkout. On his way to the exit, a woman in her 30s stopped him near the service desk. She looked like she had been crying. She explained that she had been waiting at the service desk for 22 minutes. Her situation, as best our narrator could follow, was that she had purchased a birthday cake for her daughter's birthday that afternoon, that the cake had been damaged during bag loading at the register, and that the cashier had directed her to the service desk to resolve it, but no one had come to help her. The birthday party was in 2 hours. Our narrator looked at the service desk. There was no staff member at it. He looked around the store for someone in a uniform. He couldn't see anyone. He looked at the woman. He looked at the service desk. He put down his bag. Our narrator, he writes, has worked in financial services for 15 years and is specifically trained in dispute resolution and customer de-escalation. He walked to the service desk, placed his own bag on the counter, and said, in his most professionally neutral voice, "I'm going to help you get this sorted." He looked at the register system, which was, he notes, a standard retail POS he recognized from a client he had consulted for 3 years earlier. He could not authorize anything. What he could do was document the situation clearly. He found a notepad and wrote down the woman's receipt information, the specific damage, the date and time, and the cashier's register number. He dated the note and signed it. He then walked to the nearest open register, interrupted the cashier politely, and explained, in 3 sentences, that there was an unresolved damaged goods complaint at the service desk that had been open for 25 minutes, that the customer had a time-sensitive situation, and that the note on the service desk counter contained all the relevant information for whoever was authorized to resolve it. The cashier paged a manager. The manager arrived in 90 seconds. The manager, our narrator writes, looked at the note, looked at the woman, looked at the receipt, and said he would replace the cake or issue a full refund, her choice. The woman chose a replacement. The manager called the bakery counter and arranged for a replacement cake to be ready in 15 minutes. Our narrator picked up his bag and walked to the exit. As he left, the woman called after him to ask his name so she could mention him in a survey. He told her he didn't work there. She stared at him for a long moment. His last line, "I have never told this story to anyone in my real life because I cannot explain it in a way that doesn't sound either braggy or delusional." Reddit seemed like the right audience. The post has 41,000 upvotes. Our next narrator didn't take any action at a family dinner. Not at first. She sat very still and looked at photographs on a refrigerator and tried to remember when any of them had been taken. This story comes from our /TrueOffMyChest. Our narrator is 31. She posted this 2 days after Thanksgiving. Her grandmother's house is the kind of house that accumulates photographs. Every flat surface, every refrigerator panel, every wall by the stairs. Our narrator had been to the house 100 times. She knew the photographs the way you know the furniture. On Thanksgiving, standing in the kitchen waiting for the coffee to finish, she looked at the refrigerator door and noticed something she had never allowed herself to consciously register before. There were 14 photographs of the grandchildren on the refrigerator that she did not recognize. Not in the sense that she couldn't identify the subjects. She could. But in the sense that she had no memory of when they had been taken, or by whom, or on what occasion. One photograph showed our narrator at a farmer's market she visited monthly. She had never posted photographs from that market. She had never mentioned visiting it, at least not at any family gathering she could remember. One showed her niece, who is 7, an outdoor birthday party last June. It was a friend's party, not a family party. Our narrator had been there only because she happened to be the friend picking up the niece for the afternoon. Her uncle had been released from state prison 14 months ago. He had served 6 years of an 8-year sentence for a crime our narrator declines to specify in the post, but which she describes as being the reason the entire extended family had quietly stopped discussing him. She had not known, until she stood at the refrigerator on Thanksgiving, that her grandmother had been in contact with him. Our narrator did not say anything at dinner. She helped with dishes. She drove home. She sat with what she had seen for 2 days before posting. Her post was not a question about what to do about the photographs. It was a question about what to do about her grandmother, a woman she loved who was in her mid-80s, who she believed had been acting out of a form of loyalty that our narrator describes as both completely understandable and completely unacceptable at the same time. She ended the original post with the sentence, "I don't know how to be angry at someone I also feel sorry for." The response to the post was, she wrote in a follow-up 3 days later, more than she expected. But the comment that she returned to most often was a short one, from someone who wrote, "You don't have to resolve those two feelings before you act on either of them. You can ask the question before you've decided what you'll do with the answer." Our narrator asked the question. She called her grandmother the following Saturday and said, simply, that she had noticed the photographs and wanted to understand what they were for. Her grandmother was quiet for a long time. Then she said that she had been sending her son photographs because he had asked for them, because he missed the family, and because she had not thought it was doing any harm. Our narrator asked if he knew where she lived now. Her grandmother said no. She had been careful about that. Our narrator asked if he knew where her niece's school was. Another silence. Her grandmother said, "I didn't think about that." Our narrator says she believes her grandmother was telling the truth on both counts, that she had been careful about addresses, and that she genuinely had not thought about the school. She says she also believes that not thinking about it is not the same as it being safe. She told her grandmother she needed the photographs to stop. Her grandmother agreed quietly. Her last line, "I think she understood when I asked her to stop that I was also asking her to choose. I think she made the right choice. I'm still deciding how much that helps." That story ended with a choice made under pressure. Our next story is about someone who came back to make the same mistake for the 8th time, and finally found someone had been quietly preparing for him. This story comes from our /TalesFromRetail. Our narrator is a loss prevention officer at a regional retail chain. He's been in loss prevention for 9 years. The man had first come into the store 7 weeks earlier with a $34 wireless speaker. He had returned it to the service desk, receipt-free, citing a defect. The desk clerk had issued a store credit refund per policy. The LP officer, our narrator, had reviewed the return on camera afterward. The speaker, as far as he could determine, was new. The defect the man had described was not visible on the footage. The following week, the same man returned with a different $34 wireless speaker. Same process. No receipt, defect claim, store credit. Week 3, a $37 Bluetooth headset. By week 4, our narrator had pulled all 7 prior return transactions against the man's loyalty card number and established a pattern. Every item was a small electronics product in the $30 to $40 range. Every return was receipt-free and defect-based, and every item, when physically inspected before the refund, showed no discernible defect. He had been watching. He had been logging. He had notified store management and was waiting, per company protocol, until he had a clear documentation record before escalating. Week 7 had been another wireless speaker that made the documented pattern clear enough to proceed. Our narrator briefed the store manager, reviewed the protocol with the service desk team, and set up for week 8. On week 8, the man walked in carrying a bag. He approached the service desk. The service desk employee, who had been briefed, followed the protocol, asked for a receipt, noted the item, and called our narrator to the desk per the prearranged signal. Our narrator walked to the desk and looked at the item. It was a $41 portable projector. Their store did not sell portable projectors. Their store had never sold portable projectors. Their parent company's regional distribution catalog, which our narrator had checked that morning out of due diligence, had never included portable projectors. The man looked at our narrator. Our narrator looked at the man. The man looked at the projector. "Where did you purchase this?" our narrator asked. The man, our narrator says, appeared to be doing a rapid internal calculation. The man said he had purchased it in this store about a month ago. Our narrator showed him the 7 prior return transactions on his loyalty account. He noted, aloud, that their store had never stocked portable projectors. He noted, further, that the projector's exterior had a small logo on the base indicating it had been manufactured for a competing retail chain. The police had been called before the man arrived, per protocol. They were in the stockroom. The man was detained. The investigation that followed revealed that the portable projector had been returned to the other retailer 4 days earlier for store credit, and that the man had been running parallel return fraud schemes at 3 different retail chains, cycling merchandise between stores. Our narrator's last line, "Week 8 was not, in the end, about us. But it was the week he made a mistake. I have been in loss prevention for 9 years, and I can tell you, they always make a mistake eventually. You just have to have been paying attention when they do." And our final story tonight is about someone who paid attention for 18 years to the wrong thing he eventually decided, and then spent 6 months asking strangers on the internet how to correct it. Our final story comes from our /relationship_advice. The original post was from a user who identified himself only as a 63-year-old man. The post went up on a Monday in July. The post was titled, "I haven't spoken to my daughter in 18 years. I want to apologize. I don't know how to start." The body of the post was short. He and his daughter had had a serious falling out when she was 22. He did not give the specific reason in the post, saying only that the fault had been his, that he had said things he had never found a way to take back, and that he had let the silence go too long because he had not known how to break it without making it worse. He had learned, through a cousin, that she was well, that she had a life she had built without him in it. He said he did not want to disrupt that life. He said he only wanted to know how to write a letter that acknowledged what he had done without asking for anything in return. He ended the post with, "I don't expect a response. I want to do this right, and I don't know what right looks like." The post received 344 comments. Some were skeptical, some were direct, many were generous. He replied to nearly all of them. Over the following 6 months, he posted 4 updates. In the first update, he said he had drafted a letter. In the second, he said he had revised it 12 times with the help of commenters and a therapist he had started seeing in September. In the third, in November, he said he had sent the letter. He included no details of its contents. He said only, "I said what I should have said. I did not ask for anything. I meant every word." In December, he posted a 4th update. It was 2 sentences. She wrote back. She said she needed some time, but she was glad the letter came. The thread, by December, had accumulated over 4,000 comments. People who had followed the updates for 6 months had begun leaving comments that were not addressed to the poster, but to each other, or to no one in particular. One comment from a user who identified as an estranged child read, "I hope my father is somewhere writing a letter too." It had 800 upvotes. Our narrator's thread had become, over 6 months, something slightly larger than itself. In January, 6 months after the original post, a new commenter appeared in the thread. The username was not one that had been part of the prior discussion. The comment was short. The comment said, "Hi, I'm the daughter. I read all of this in one sitting last night. I want you all to know that the letter was everything he said it was. He said what he meant, and he didn't ask for anything. I'm still figuring out what I want. But I want to say thank you to everyone who helped him get there. I didn't know he'd asked for help. I'm glad he did." The comment received 11,000 upvotes before the thread was archived. The father replied once below her comment. He wrote 4 words. "I'm so glad." Hello. Our narrator, who is not the father or the daughter, but someone who had been following the thread since July, says they screenshotted the exchange and have never deleted it. Their last line, "I don't know what happens next for them. None of us do." But for one afternoon in January, 4,000 strangers watched a door open. 5 stories. A woman reclaiming her name one account at a time. A man in a suit who picked up a notepad and wrote a note. A daughter standing at a refrigerator and counting photographs. A loss prevention officer who waited 8 weeks for a mistake. And a thread that spent 6 months becoming something it hadn't intended to be. If any of these stayed with you, the channel keeps making them. Tuesday and Friday. Subscribe to catch the next one. Thanks for listening. For words. A door open. Chapters. JSON. Chapters. Title. 17 accounts. Start_word. 320. Subreddit. Raised by narcissists. Permalink. /r/raised a /comments /pile of 5 story 1/17_account / Title. You didn't work there. Start_word. 1115. Subreddit. IDontWorkHereLady. Permalink. /r/IDontWorkHereLady /comments /pile of 5 story 2 /the_manager / Title. The photographs. Start_word. 1735. Subreddit. TrueOffMyChest. Permalink. /r/TrueOffMyChest /comments /pilot 5 story 3 /the photographs / Title. Week 8. Start_word. 2420. Subreddit. TalesFromRetail. Permalink. /r/TalesFromRetail /comments /pile of 5 story 4 /weekend / Title. I'm glad he did. Start_word. 3090. Subreddit. Relationship_advice. Permalink. /r/relationship_advice /comments